Is it possible that anything sinister was going on beneath the surface of Little House on the Prairie, despite its innocent charm? Caroline Margles, whose real name is Karen Grassel, remained silent about her real experience working with Michael Landon for decades. Now that she's 82 years old, though, she's revealing the truth about what transpired on set, and it's fans devastated, moved to tears, and shocked. You were never prepared for this untold tale. One that could alter your perception of your beloved animated series from your youth. Here we have our beloved Ma in her pre-screening form. The sunlit hills of Berkeley, California, where she still resides now, provide the setting for her story. However, her family's upbringing was far from idyllic, as depicted in Little House on the Prairie. There was a great burden on her father, Eugene, who was an independent real estate agent. A weight that would loom over the loved ones for many years. He caused stress and anxiety in the home by battling alcoholism and suicidal ideation. Fry, her mother, on the other hand, was extraordinary. This thing is rock solid. This educator had persevered through the Great Depression and come out on top. Even when faced with adversity, she remained resolute and unyielding. Karen would come to appreciate having a strong female role model as a blessing in hindsight, particularly because, on her own walk, she would encounter some really gloomy situations before ultimately discovering the light. There was no way her parents were more different from each other. The mother was an inspiration as her strong and determined father fought his troubles with a bottle. This would mold Karen's perspective on resilience and vulnerability. The world was teeming with change when Karen stepped foot on campus at Berkeley in the 1960s. The hippie movement thrived in Berkeley because it was a hub for young people who were challenging conventional wisdom and exploring alternative lifestyles. This place was freeing and terrifying for someone who was already struggling with anxiety and the stress of family issues. Karen initially caught her father's dangerous habit while she was a college student. After what began as an occasional drink, something that started out as a harmless component of the college party scene turned into a major source of anxiety. When the stresses of life and school become too much for her, she turned to drink. As a coping mechanism, she would occasionally resort to self-harm when the anxiety levels reached an extreme, experiencing the anguish she was feeling emotionally. Finding her niche in life was difficult for the young woman who would become the adored TV mom to America. She had gifts and abilities, but she was also confused and hurting in ways that nobody else could perceive. An addiction's origins that her father had unwittingly scattered were starting to take hold, laying the groundwork for the struggles she would endure for many years. Karen dared to dream big after graduating from college and headed for the glittering streets of New York City. With her training under her belt, she was determined to make it big as an actor on the stage. She had grown up in the cozy suburbs, so the early 1970s Manhattan was a complete shock. It was harsh, costly, and merciless to budding artists. With all her might, Karen dove headfirst into the world of theater. She was able to secure Broadway roles and worked on a Shakespeare in the Park production of Cymbeline with actors like Sam Waterston and Christopher Walken, who would go on to become Hollywood stars. Such high-profile engagements are the stuff of dreams for performers. The glamorous side of the theater industry belied the far harder reality of making a life on stage. She was barely able to get by on the income she received from performing. She resided in a cramped apartment on First Avenue in an unsavory neighborhood. Even though it's a little exaggeration, she frequently saw individuals who had drowsy from an overdose in her foyer. She had a hard time making ends meet every month due to the high cost of repairs for her old, battered car. Karen was also coping with the aftermath of her previous marriage to actor Leon Rousen at this time. From the beginning, the relationship had been miserable and they had finalized their divorce in 1970. Karen drank more and more to cope with the emotional and mental challenges she was facing, including financial worries, isolation, and the pain of her broken marriage. Surprisingly, her limited funds really served to limit her alcohol consumption to a certain extent. She was utterly incapable. Enough money to purchase an excessive amount of alcoholic beverages. Hearing about an audition for a new TV show in January 1973 was the turning point in Karen's life. Michael Landon, who rose to fame playing Bonanza's Little Joe, had an idea to adapt the classic novels by Laura Ingalls Wilder about adventurers' lives into a television show. The role of Caroline Less, the formidable pioneer mother who would host the event, was something he was trying to cast. Prior to the audition, Karen's agent provided her with detailed instructions. Get dolled up in a dress but skip the makeup. During the early 1970s, when most Hollywood women sported midriff-bearing shirts, artificial eyelashes, heavy eyeliner, and skin-tight trousers, this went totally against the fashion trends. What was fashionable and appealing at the time was completely at odds with Landon's vision for Caroline, which was a more natural, wholesome style. Karen spent $40, a substantial sum for her in those days, on a conservative wool dress with a turtleneck and flared skirt since she knew this audition might make or break her career. But she couldn't help but go a little overboard, so she subtly added a hint of brown eyeshadow to make her eyes look more dramatic. Vague description. Everything went according to plan. Michael Landon sprang up from his seat like a jack-in-the-box and yelled, "Send her to the wardrobe." Suddenly, this happened after Karen finished reading her audition scene. The part that would launch her career and bring her fame to America had fallen into the lap of a struggling New York theatrical actress. The small California town of Sonora served as the setting for Little House on the Prairie's pilot season. It was like a dream realized for Karen. Having battled for a long time to making ends meet in the Big Apple, she felt like she had finally found her place. An emotionally engaging program that might reach a massive audience. Collaborating with the young actors who portrayed her on-screen daughters was a highlight of the job. After Karen put a lot of work into developing genuine connections with Melissa Gilbert, Melissa Sue Anderson, Lindsay, and Sydney Greenbush, who are twins. Having her as their TV mom was something she really wanted them to feel at ease with. And her efforts to establish a welcoming atmosphere were well received by the audience. Melissa Gilbert was someone she had a unique bond with. The young actress who played Laura, whom her TV dad affectionately called Half Pint, regarded Karen as a mother figure and a mentor. This connection was important in bringing to life some of the show's most heartwarming and genuine family scenes, which viewers will remember for generations to follow. When Karen first met Michael Landon, she saw a guy who seemed to be bearing a great burden. In addition to being the show's star, he also served as executive producer, writer, and director. Efforts that any individual would find difficult. She thought he was quite forceful and demanding. However, she couldn't deny his extraordinary talent and unwavering commitment to elevating the performance to new heights. The success of Little House had a profound impact on Karen's life. A range of $2,000 to $4,000 was her income. Every week, a sizable sum that enabled her to indulge in things she had previously been unable to afford. She could enjoy life to the fullest, unlike when she was a struggling theater performer, thanks to the availability of fine dining and trendy cocktail bars. However, achieving success also brought about difficult situations. Despite Karen's professional achievements, she started to question her abilities and fixate on how well she performed. Week after week of strong pressure to deliver due to the tough filming schedule was draining. The fact that there was a bar on the set only made things worse. When the pressure was too much for someone with her problems to find solace in liquid form. In New York, Karen's drinking was partially limited by her poverty, but now there were no such constraints. She greatly escalated her intake once she had money in her pocket and booze easily accessible. Her description: about the time when I was attempting to imbibe socially at parties. The reality, though, was that she felt alcohol's effects far more keenly than anybody else. The fallout was getting both unpleasant and risky. After a particularly bad night of drinking, she would sob uncontrollably and feel like ignoring her achievements at the workplace. She felt like her entire life was falling apart. On one terrifying occasion, she had been drinking extensively at the airport before boarding the plane. She accepted the flight attendant's offer of wine with an air of casual acceptance, making no remark of that her intoxication had already set in. By the time they touched down, she had already consented to accompany a total stranger home as they made out. Karen felt comfortable enough to ask Michael Landon for a raise when the second season of Little House began. Being co-star on a popular show, and she thought she deserved more money for the work she put in. The events that followed would tarnish their professional relationship for many years. Landon was really disrespectful when he turned down her plea. His suggestion was that her pay should be on level with that of the minor performers, thereby ignoring her as an adult actress and co-lead in favor of treating her like a regular cast member. Someone who had studied in London, performed on Broadway, and was assisting with the production of a hit musical thought this was a personal attack. Show on television. The situation was exacerbated when Landon asserted that the audience did not perceive her as influential or popular as she believed she to be. Given that Karen was already battling self-doubt despite the show's success, this assault on her attractiveness and significance hit particularly close to home. The consequences of this pay conflict were severe and quick to manifest. Unfortunately for Karen, she kept having her sequences deleted from episodes and her plot lines rewritten. Suddenly, she felt like an afterthought, despite being a major figure. As the muse of the Engels family, the woman was being treated with indifference toward her. Even more upsetting and devastating was what transpired thereafter. Michael Landon started making fun of Karen in front of everyone on set. As they would watch the daily film, he would cruelly criticize her appearance and facial features, body language, eliciting inane laughter from others around her. This public shaming was unbearable for someone who was already battling low self-esteem and alcoholism. While shooting bedroom sequences in the Engel cabin, the harassment escalated to a much more unpleasant level. Along with Landon would engage in highly offensive language and make degrading sexual jokes about women as the male crew members encouraged him. He had a habit of mentioning the N-word and making remarks about the post-sex aroma of ladies. During these episodes, Karen says she felt paralyzed and wanted to just vanish, but she didn't know what to say in response. She had become accustomed to this type of treatment as a woman working in the film industry during the 1970s that the idea of fighting back or reporting the behavior never crossed her mind. It was socially acceptable for women to put up with harassment in the hopes that it would go away. This was the cultural norm at the time. Karen kept her cool and collected personality no matter what was going on. In spite of the poisonous atmosphere at work, she persisted in turning up every day, performing her duties, and acting out the role of the ideal pioneer mother. She clung to the belief that hoped things would improve, that she would be able to weather the storm, and that they would resume their fruitful collaboration. The disarray in Karen's personal life reflected her work problems. Because of her alcoholism and emotional problems, she had very poor relationship judgment. While describing herself, she acknowledges that she is attracted to inappropriate types. Time throughout which she acted with a degree of laxity. She had an engagement but cheated on her fiancé with Little House guest star Gil Gerard. Although Gerard would go on to become famous in the 25th century as Buck Rogers' star, he was but another dashing actor who captivated to Karen's gaze. Because of the encounter, she was quite worried that she might have contracted gonorrhea after Gerard contacted her to inform her of the possibility. Karen was attempting to avoid dealing with her deeper issues, which led to her history of poor relationship choices. Her self-description is frantic at the moment, unsure of her life's purpose and lacking any sense of direction. As a result of the guys she dated being dysfunctional in their own ways, her drinking became even worse. Karen was in an especially difficult position because she was what's commonly referred to as an alcoholic with excellent functioning. Most folks thought she was doing great and had everything under control. She kept up the appearance of the ideal TV mother, got her lines out, and showed up to work every day. Yet, unseen by the public, she was crumbling. On a regular basis, Karen would be sick with the night before and feel completely drained when they got to set. After consuming so much fluid, her face would swell and her eyes would be red and puffy. She put her trust in Larry and Whitey, the hair and cosmetics team, to take her from the wreck she felt like to the beautiful Caroline less that anticipated viewing by the crowd. It started to feel more and more like a ritual. After grabbing her coffee, she would drag herself to the makeup trailer, where she would feel terrible and then emerge from the protective cocoon with Ma's head. Most people couldn't comprehend her journey because of how drastically she had changed. To the finish. However, maintaining a steady routine of drinking, performing, and attempting to keep it together was too much to bear. Karen fought for a long time to limit her drinking because she longed to drink normally like everyone else. But she had a different reaction to drinking. It had the opposite effect of making her calm and sociable. It made her impulsive and difficult to control. Even though she appeared to be doing very well from the outside, she would often break down and cry because she was so sure that something was wrong with her life. An epiphany occurred in 1977 when Karen mustered up the nerve to face her addiction with the support of a resolute buddy who was battling drinking alongside her. This friend joined her in her battle for sobriety, giving her the encouragement and holding her to her word that she could make a difference. At about the same time, Karen won a big battle in her continuing compensation discussions with NBC and Michael Landon. It took her years of battling, but she finally got her pay doubled. Karen gained a clearer perspective on her position after she became sober. She came to realize that her deepest need had always been for a stable family life. Life that Caroline, the protagonist, led. She yearned for the kind of partner who shared Caroline Less's desire for a family and the joy of parenthood. Sobriety had served as an escape from these more fundamental desires and anxieties. Her relationship with Michael Landon was mended in part because of the remarkable change in her private life. The strained relationship between them started to ease once she got sober and was earning the same as him. They were able to collaborate better, and Karen understood the strain Landon was under as the show's creator and executive producer. Karen started to take risks creatively and use her platform for meaningful causes once her personal life stabilized. She tackled the weighty subject of domestic abuse against women in 1978 with her screenplay and acting in the TV movie Battered. It was clear from this project that she was willing to take on challenging topics and utilize her celebrity to bring attention to vital social concerns. The causes that concerned Karen most led her to become a prominent voice fighting for gender equality and women's rights. Her personal struggles as a woman in the job, including instances of harassment, she gained a distinct viewpoint on these matters through her experience in the entertainment sector. Reproductive rights and women's autonomy are now at the center of her activism. Her own experiences make this cause very important to her. During her 20s and 30s, she had 2 abortions. In 1985, she gave birth to her son Zach Radford. Before abortion was permitted in the U.S. in 1973, she goes so far as to say that it was traumatic for her to have to go to Mexico for her first procedure. Karen's involvement stems from her profound empathy for the challenging decisions women encounter. Based on her beliefs, strongly believe that women should never be regarded like criminals for making these choices and that society should support women when they make decisions about their reproductive health or personal choices. Even after all these years, Karen Grassel still calls California home. It was there that her adventure started. She is a resilient individual who overcame adversity by channeling her suffering into insight and resilience. What a remarkable transformation! The young woman who was so lost and hopeless before is now someone who inspires, advocates, and demonstrates the incredible potential of healing and self-improvement. After so much time has passed, how do you interpret Karen's truth? Post your opinions down below and hit the like, and subscribe button for more behind-the-scenes Hollywood tales.